Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and today I filmed a squat workout, and as expected from last week, I increased the weight. Now, I only did 8 work sets today because I started feeling fatigue. Probably around the 6th set, I started noticing the fatigue mounting. Keep in mind, guys, I am doing pause squats, and I only fairly recently returned to squatting after taking a long time off from squatting. But I've realized it's in my best interest to rebuild my strength base on this, and so I'm trying to get back to a 500 raw squat, which you guys have seen me do on camera. I've done it before on YouTube, and I'm using kind of my new training system as the template for all these lifts that I'm doing. I'm also doing it for the squat and using it to rebuild my squat, and kind of doing a couple different progressions based upon where I am on these lifts while using the same pattern. Now with the squat, I've been doing 10-pound jumps, obviously, because I started with 315, and I've just kind of jumped up from there. And today I did my work sets, not counting the 315, we're not counting that as a work set, with 345. So we went up another 10 pounds. Now, normally my goal on this is to try to get 10 sets of 3, but I knew based on the bar speed, I'm not as fast as I have been with the lighter weights. So in other words, my progression is going to slow a little bit from here. And what I will probably do after this, because I'll come in next week, and next week I'll attempt to get 10 sets, and after that I'm going to do 5-pound jumps, and it shouldn't take long. I mean, even with the best predicted scenario, let's say I can actually add 5 pounds a week, which I'm not necessarily going to bank on that. Assuming I can, it's about 12 weeks to get to my baseline goal. My goal on this is to get back to 405 paused and beltless for 10 sets of 3, because from there, when I was able to do that back in the UK, I was able to go back to singles and get to 500 plus in a relatively short amount of time. So I'm using that as my standard because I know from my own past experience that that puts me fairly close to a 500 squat, that it's within a month of training from that point, because I hit a 500-pound squat a month after I was able to do those lifts. So I know that that's my baseline strength to get there if I go back to singles. Doesn't mean I'm not going to keep building with triples. Doesn't mean I'm not going to keep building with triples. But at least I will know that it's within my reach to do that. I may not go to any sort of singles for a long time. I might just keep building over time with triples. Who knows? We might get to like 455 for a bunch of triples. But, one step at a time, guys. And that's the thing I've had to learn as I get older. Rebuilding an old lift or building a new lift or anything like that, you've got to be patient. You can't be impatient. I'm older, not blasting gear, things like that. Taking my time and doing it right and mastering the exercises is the way to go. Now, you guys will notice I'm not as explosive with this weight. I'm slowing down a little bit. Now, a lot of people are going to be like, I don't know, you're pretty fast. And yes, I know that I am relatively fast even with this, but we have to keep in mind, guys, bar speed, or your ability to generate bar speed, is largely genetic. I also can't really lift slow. I don't grind well. I'm not genetically gifted at grinding. I'm gifted at exploding. And that's the thing. You have to know your strengths and weaknesses when it comes to training. And if you've been training for many years, you learn these things about yourself. You understand your genetics. You understand your limitations. And making it all work. So my thing is, that's what I'm doing. That's what I'm doing. Because the bar speed is slowing down, I can feel it slow down. I can see it on the camera. I know that this was a big jump for me. This is a big jump for me, and I'm going to need to slow the progression down a hair from here. Now, a lot of people would say, well, why didn't you grind out 10 sets? Because when we get to the last set, it's going to become apparent I didn't grind. It was challenging. It started getting challenging around the 6th set. So my last 3 sets were actually what I would describe as fairly hard work. Probably close to like RPE 8. Probably RPE 8, rate of perceived exertion. But here's the thing with that. I don't need to go much harder than that. I knew from the feeling in my quads, from the bar speed, that I had generated enough fatigue and enough overload that I am going to grow, that I am going to adapt. And what we have to remember when it comes to training, even with a fairly aggressive program, we're in the gym to stimulate, not annihilate. We're there to stimulate adaptation. I did a 10-pound jump, and I did 8 sets instead of 10. But I still did 8 triples with a 10-pound weight increase. If we look at that from a progressive overload perspective, that's a substantial increase. Therefore, I have stimulated hypertrophy since the last workout, and I stimulated new hypertrophy in this workout. Furthermore, because I was getting fatigued, if I wanted the last 2 sets to be pretty, not be grindy, to be really fast, like what I'm trying to do, I would have probably needed to be in the gym another 15 to 20 minutes. I didn't want to wait around today on my squats to put another 20 minutes of resting in, 10 minutes between those sets to regain all my bar speed. Brittany had things to do. We had other stuff to do. And I realized I stimulated enough adaptation. I don't have to get to my 10 sets every workout. Now, my bench press I do, because the bench press is my worst lift. I have to get 10 sets on bench press, even if that means reducing the weight. I have to do it. But that's different. That's the lift that needs the most work. The squat's going to keep coming up just fine doing this. I can just go to slow progression now, and my squat will increase substantially every month from here. And like I said, the best case scenario of 12 weeks to reach my goal. Realistically speaking, I think 16 to 20 is more realistic. And the reason for that, that's assuming I have weeks where I don't do my 10 sets. And that allows me a lot of wiggle room on that. Like if I have workouts where I add the new weight and I only fill up 7 to 8 sets, I can do my 7 or 8 and then get 10 the next time. But the point is, I think at this point we're going to see at least a small progression every single week. Every single week. And if I keep the progression small enough, I won't get stuck. Because remember, I got stuck with the bench press by progressing too fast. And what a nightmare that creates. You know, when you're stronger and you have a strength base and you want to get good at something, the worst thing you can do is try to increase too quick. Weight on the bar is everything, and everyone understands that. Here's my last set, by the way. So you guys can see, I mean, it's reasonably good. It's reasonably good, but I was definitely feeling the fatigue. My quads were burning. That one was a little slow. See what I mean? I'm slowing down there. I would have to start taking longer breaks to get really quality sets in. And there was no need. I had stimulated adaptation. I did 8 sets with a 10-pound weight increase. That's enough. And that also gives me the wiggle room of next week to come in and progress on sets while using the same weight. Which again will stimulate new adaptation. But generally speaking, we all understand that. We all know adding weight on the bar is everything. Let anyone tell you otherwise. They really don't know what they're talking about. People can talk about whatever little silly studies, short-term studies they've done with really light weights, but in the long term, it is weight on the bar that matters. Doing sets and extra reps with a given weight is just a tool in the toolbox when you can't add weight that allows you to hypertrophy more, improve your work capacity so that you can add more weight to the bar. But ultimately, the weight on the bar, again, not at the expense of cheating, not at the expense of reducing range of motion, really is what matters. That's everything. That's everything to strength training. And strength, when you are not blasting a bunch of gear, strength is everything for hypertrophy. Cannot separate the two, at least for any sort of long-term gains. Yeah, you might get in an 8-week study in a lab, a very short-term study, but nothing long-term. And so that's the name of the game. Getting more weight on the bar while maintaining good form, while doing sufficient volume to stimulate adaptation, and not getting stuck, right? Not getting stuck like we did on the bench press. Can't afford for that to happen on the squat too. I have serious squat goals. I mean, the bench press is secondary, and a lot of people care about your bench, and it's impressive overall. But in the grand scheme of things, the squat's a little more important. I can't afford for it to get stuck like I did bringing up the bench press. And so this nice slow progression from here is going to do that. And like I said, I could have got the 10 sets today, but I realized it's probably going to make me sore if I do. And I got a deadlift in a few days. I don't want to be sore for that. And I stimulated new adaptation. All right, I'm going to grow from this. My quads are going to grow from this. I'm going to get stronger. That's enough, because as long as we come in next week and we're stronger, then it's all good. Again, remember, stimulate, don't annihilate. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.